Hey, Faith family, Pastor Chad here. I just want to send a little devotional words of encouragement to you guys. I know yesterday was felt different. I'm sure for most of us, to be able to gather together as a faith family. But man, I was excited to see how many people showed up on and watched the video and the different responses I heard from people, either text message or response in our Facebook and emails. So that man, God's still good. God is still in control. I want to remind you of something today. In Psalm chapter 56, David writes this psalm out, and it's pretty awesome. Like when we think about it, remember little David and Goliath, right? Well, you fast forward, and David goes through a rough spell in life where he's already been anointed to be the next king. Saul's gone kind of crazy. Saul's after David. David's on the run. David gets to the point where he flees into another land, the Philistines land in Gath, which is where Goliath is from. So probably not the most popular guy in that place. And there's a lot of tension, and in Psalm 56 tells us basically that David's been captured. And so think of the unrest that David's going through in that situation. A lot of us may be completely different today, but we understand unrest. We understand anxiety. We understand some fear and things like that. Anyways, in Psalm 56, verses 3 and 4, it says this: "When I'm afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me?" I love those words that David says. In the midst of all that, David writes those words: "When I'm afraid, I will put my trust in you." Where are you putting your trust in today? Where, in this season that we're going through, where's your trust? Yesterday, we kind of encouraged you about our foundations. Building it on the rock or building on the sand. Where has it been built? A lot of us are still struggling with that. A lot of us are just struggling with all this stuff. Man, I want to encourage you guys today that you put your trust in God. I shared you Hebrews chapter 9, verse 16. And I love the way the New King James puts it. It says this hope we have as an anchor of our souls. So this hope that we have that's an anchor for our souls, something that we can hold on to. It says it's both secure and steadfast. Another word for steadfast is unwavering or resolute. So this hope, the hope we have in Jesus, man, it's an anchor for our soul. So 1735, there's a man by the name of James Wesley. Probably a lot of us are familiar with Wesley. Wesley's from England, and he's been kind of summoned and asked to come over here to America. James Oglethorpe, who's helping to set up Georgia, had recently put together like a parish in Savannah, and he wants Wesley to come and oversee that parish, kind of be the pastor of that area. And so Wesley's on this boat coming from England over to America. Many of the passengers are English, and in the midst of this journey, this great big storm arrives. And panic and fear begins to kind of spread throughout the passengers. The storm gets so intense that at one point, the mast breaks. And so when that happens, there's just mass pandemonium, a great deal of fear that they're about to die, that this is a bad circumstance. Wesley, who's kind of even acting as the chaplain of that journey, is even filled with fear. And as he's going through, as he's seeing these different groups, one group of people happens to catch his attention. There's this group of German Moravians. In the midst of all the chaos, in the midst of the fear, in the midst of the storm, y'all, this group, men, women, children, they're not scared. They're not fearful. Man, they're singing praises to the Lord. They're worshiping God. Man, that event was seared into the mind of John Wesley. See, Wesley gets back and he realized he didn't have that same faith. He didn't have that same steadfast, sure, resolute faith in God those Moravians did. See, that was an event that was going to capture the heart and the mind of Wesley for a few years. In fact, about 3 years. And Wesley finally comes to the realization that even though he was serving as a pastor, even though he had served as a missionary, even though He was brought up in a good Christian family. He had never truly given his life to Christ. And he came to that point where he truly, finally did. So here's what I want to encourage you with. For maybe there's some here that are watching this, kind of an extension of yesterday. You're thinking through this and you're realizing that maybe you've not come to that point where you've given your life to Christ. And I want to encourage you, like today, that you give your life to Christ, that you allow him to be that anchor that you will hold on to in the midst of the certain times, in the midst of the uncertain times, in the midst of the chaos around us, in the midst of the calm. Like God is that steadfast anchor for us. Man, for some of us, and again, if we be honest, like we've gone through life and we've realized we've wandered a bit. Man, I want to encourage you guys. One of the verses that I'm really, really holding on to in my own personal life, maybe it's an encouragement to you. I shared it with you guys yesterday. It comes from 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 13, right? And when Paul writes that, he says, if we're faithless, right, when we wander, when we mess up, when we have those moments in our life that we're faithless, he's faithful. God's faithful. For he cannot deny himself. God is faithful. He can't help but be faithful. That's his nature. And how awesome is that for us? For those of us who maybe wandered a bit, who have struggled. And let me encourage y'all, hold fast again to that anchor in Jesus. Man, I love you guys. I'm looking forward to being with you guys again in the midst of these times. We're working hard to put together several other little devotions that we can send out on a regular basis. I'll be doing some. I'm getting some of the other guys in our church, maybe a few little surprise faces so you guys can see some familiarity. We're praying for you. We love you. Man, hold on to the anchor, which is Jesus.